Good morning. You're listening to Radio Disney AM 1470 KIID Kid Connection here, hosted by me, Cassie. Every Sunday morning, we take a look at issues and topics impacting you, your family, and the greater Sacramento community as a whole. Today, we're going to be talking about being healthy and getting active and staying fit. Representing the National HealthCorps, I have the President of HealthCorps, Michelle Bouchard, and I have to keep saying HealthCorps, obviously, over and over again, because I want everyone to know HealthCorps and not forget the name, HealthCorps. So, Michelle, thanks so much for joining me on today's show.
Well, thank you so much, Cassie. I'm delighted because, as you know, I have a 9-year-old who listens to Radio Disney all the time.
What's your 9-year-old daughter's name?
Her name is Liberty.
Oh, hi, Liberty. This is awesome. It's a great connection to have you on the show to talk about being healthy because, you know, we're all about staying active and fit and doing it as a family, which I think is wonderful with HealthCorps and your daughter and you being really passionate about Radio Disney. And this is going to be a fun show. I can't wait to talk to you. Before we jump into talking about HealthCorps, do you mind if we get to know you really quick, Michelle?
Not at all.
So off air, you told me that you moved from New York all the way out here. You're the president of the National HealthCorps. What does that mean exactly?
That means that I oversee the staff of HealthCorps as well as all the coordinators in the field. And we actually have 3 offices. We have an office in New York City, we have an office in Sacramento, and an office in Washington, D.C.
Wow.
And then we have 66 young people placed in the field over 14 states and Washington, D.C.
I'm kind of surprised there isn't an office in L.A. or San Francisco, to be honest.
Well, so was Dr. Oz.
And this is his baby, isn't it? This was his initiative that he started?
Absolutely. This was the initiative that he dreamed of in 2003, and he founded it with his wife, Lisa.
Oh.
And it has grown into quite an amazing program that affects thousands and thousands of high schoolers across the nation.
Oh. How did you end up getting into this job, being president of overseeing this wonderful national organization?
It's a funny story because I've had the pleasure of knowing Dr. Oz since college.
Oh, really?
And yep. His sister was my best friend, and while we were having fun, he was doing a lot of studying. So kids, study out there if you want to be Dr. Oz.
You can have your own TV show.
Exactly. But I'd done a lot of nonprofit work since I was 22. And in 2002, Dr. Oz, who remained a friend, gave me a paper and said, "What do you think about this? I think we need a health corps in the United States." And I said, "That's a great idea." And then in 2007, he said, "Hey, Bouchard, will you come aboard and help take us national?"
Wow. So you've been with the company from the beginning. And I'm saying company, but it's an organization, yes?
Yes, we're a 501c3, which is a charitable organization.
Oh, awesome. So you have basically a lot of volunteers working for you then.
Well, actually, the coordinators in the field are paid, and they're paid a living wage. So, and they are the most incredible young people. I hope all the people in Radio Disney who are listening will consider, first of all, going to college, and then secondly, after college, applying to be a health corps coordinator in a high school.
Oh, yeah. No, it sounds like great advice considering we have a lovely lady joining you on your end of the phone, Caitlin. I just have to do a shout out.
Hi.
I know you're kind of just in the background being a wonderful support system for Michelle right now, but you're one of those lovely coordinators that I got to work with out and about. That's how I got introduced to HealthCorps, which I'm embarrassed, but I'll admit it, you know, that I didn't know anything about it. That's why I was super excited when I met Caitlin, and I'm like, yeah, I totally need to have you guys on the show.
Well, we're so grateful, and Caitlin's my lifeline, by the way. We're in a lot of schools in California, too. I don't know if you know that. We're in 27 high schools in California.
Wow. What is it exactly you do at these high schools then?
Well, at the high school, we place a coordinator there for 2 years who's a young person who's recently graduated from college who most likely wants to go on to be a doctor or some sort of health practitioner, and feet on the street 5 days a week, teaching nutrition, fitness, and mental resilience. And they teach kids to take a holistic view of health, of mind, body, and spirit, and understand the connection between all of them. And it's so funny because you're so happy. And my daughter told me she loves Radio Disney because it makes her happy. It's a happy channel. And one thing at HealthCorps that we try to bring to kids is happiness, because happiness is so important. And we also teach kids, a big part of this curriculum is to teach kids mental resilience, to think positively. We know that life is always going to throw a bunch of rocks in our way, but it doesn't matter how many rocks come your way. What's important is how you climb over those rocks, right?
Right, exactly. It's how you deal with it. You can either trip and fall, or you can use it as a stepping stone and climb up to what's better to come.
Absolutely.
Well, why don't we go ahead and talk about some of the different programs you got going on? There's 2 different HealthCorps programs, the Living Labs program and the HealthCorps University. What are those?
Well, the Living Labs program are actually our 66 high schools, and we consider them living labs because we have our coordinator in there who's impacting about 600 students on average per school, teaching them all these new ways of learning health. And they're literally labs because the coordinators report back to their supervisors and eventually back to the main office every week and say, hey, this worked. Hey, this didn't work. And also, if something didn't work, we try to ensure that the experience for the students is experiential, in other words, hands-on, and it's an integrated experience. For example, you'll learn a lot of health lessons through science classes, through biology, through chemistry. You'll learn a lot of science through gardening. So we believe that you don't just have to teach one subject in one classroom. You can teach several subjects and have it be fun.
Well, yeah, because when something's fun, it's one of those magical memories. Seeing I've been with the Disney company long enough that I always go with magical memories. But if it's one of those lasting memories that you treasure, it's easier for you to remember it. Therefore, you're going to use it in your life more. It's going to be one of those happy memories like you talked about that you're going to reflect back on. So what a wonderful idea.
Well, when you do it, the best way of learning is doing. Right?
Exactly.
You know, because you know kids and they're your listeners, and they don't react well to don't do this and don't do that, and you shouldn't eat this and you shouldn't eat that. So our focus is not on the negative, what's prohibited. Our focus is on, hey, this is what's good, this is what's fun, this is what makes you happy, this is what makes you feel good.
Very smart. Very, very smart. That's the total way of getting kids to do anything. You have some wonderful tips for parents and their kids on ways they can be healthy together because, you know, being positive really is important to do. And it's also a good way to do it when you're a family. If mom and dad are doing it or older brother and sister are doing it, then most likely the younger kids are going to be involved too. And if the younger kids are doing it, they're the ones saying, no, you shouldn't have cookies tonight. They're being the voice of reason. You know,
they become the refrigerator police.
They do. They're the little Jiminy Crickets. They're their conscience.
We teach kids and their families a lot of great tips, and these are really personal for me because, as you know, I do have a 9-year-old, and we try to do these things in Sacramento ourselves. Something like walking to school instead of driving. And if you're not walking to school with a parent, get together a group of kids so it's safe and walk in together in a group to school. On the weekends, try to bike ride together or bike to school if there's a safe biking route to school. And you don't have to do that alone, groups as well. Try to have a home garden if you have a yard. I have one in my backyard, and we love growing tomatoes that we eat. But even if you don't have a home garden, try window boxes, or you can actually grow things inside as well, because it's such a beautiful, beautiful lesson in resilience to see how plants actually make it. It also gives you to nature. And there's a lot of talk right now about how kids are not connected to nature and how important that connection is to their happiness. The data is really clear that kids who have less exposure to nature are not as happy. And then another thing is, you know, cook together. We're finding that many children in the United States don't know how to cook. And it's very, very important, number one, just for a life skill, that someone knows how to cook. And then it's a really fun activity that you can do with your kids is cooking together, or siblings can cook together, right?
Right. I like to cook with my brother. Food may not always end up where it should, but still it's fun to cook with him.
Yes, I have a 22-year-old, and when he cooks with my 9-year-old, some things blow up. Sacramento has a fabulous farmers market, which I'm sure you're aware of, and actually a lot of cities